Anche emisija kadika andare tema andare diskriminacija te anticiganizmu. Kolege sama džijane priština po Kosovo, că se organizujeme Western Balkans Roma Summit, a cerdahle je organizacija Civil Rights Defenders. Odmah pa lejek šukar romaniđili.
Drömmalen sjolen Akaya gili Bir sergila bi Teshonen la Matteroven Drömmalen sjolen Akaya gili Lile sergila bi Teshonen la Matteroven Dosta mudarda men Okorum manusha Hayrete vazda marushero Upreteja Orumane Bayrakyate vazda Dosta mudarda men Okorum manusha Hayrete vazda marushero Upreteja Orumane Bayrakyate vazda Rumalen dosta bishlamtale Hayri kavuşta Amel nupre Tenna kilena mensa Tenna mudaren amen Rumalen dosta bishlamtale Hayri kavuşta Amel nupre Tenna kilena mensa Tenna mudaren amen Rumalen dosta ruvgal više Hajde kačilava O asvavare O hatri amare Mulenge sovule Rumalen dosta ruvgal više Hajde kačilava O asvavare O hatri amare Mulenge somule
A Priština po Kosovo činjali preko 200 aktivisti randar saho regionu, pogotovo ex-Jugoslavija, te diken po Balkan Western Roma Summit sokaće renandare diskriminacija. PKV Summit otrubunte rešipe sa legislative te se zakonu i trenutno aktuelni, a Savet otrbuntela čardom petešaj diskriminacija vel sušajmaj crvuču ime. Civil Rights Defenders je organizacija kaj će relmu čipali sa nokiča čimata, a PKV Summito čidijamaj bud aktivistu i randar Evropa te Zapadnom Balkanu, Tursko. Bud zakonu i raden zore romen te džana gle, ali ga či von čerdejane praksa, diklama nekad uiđive pek Summito.
The implementation of those laws against discrimination is quite bad, and good examples are exception and not the rule. So cases where we have those laws implemented. one case, one positive solved case, I mean, before European court or a case before the local court that we have a good judgment, has a really big effect to the local whole Roma community and for all communities in the Western Balkans. I mean, in every single country, we have one case where Roma is beaten and then there is a consequence before the court, or it is a consequence of some discrimination case before the ombudsman, has a good effect for everyone in that country. The problem is that we don't have enough cases. European Roma Center did something, or some other local organization did something, but in total, when we put everything on table, the number of cases is quite limited in local countries. Another big problem that we have is that Roma community is still not using all available mechanisms. Or they are using sometimes, to some extent, majority of members of the community don't know enough or nothing about the mechanisms and so on. So this is still a big problem. And of course, we have never-ending problem of reporting of discrimination. People are still in the Roma community are afraid to report discrimination, to ask for help, or they simply do not recognize discrimination. So discrimination, or sometimes often systematic discrimination, is not visible, because discrimination became still invisible. So what can be done? That's my topic, so I'll jump into that. So working in quite almost 2 decades with Roma community, from my perspective, there are several things that we should focus. First thing is monitoring. I know everyone is tired of monitoring. Oh, come on, we don't need more reports, or why we should do monitoring. I mean, this is boring. How this will help someone in Planetina, or someone in the Roma settlements in Konik, in Podgorica, or in the 100 settlements. But how this will help the Roma community if you have monitoring? So we did, this monitoring report. How this will help someone who is living on this that way. Well, I think it's very important to know the starting point, that we are possible to compare what's happened 5 years ago, what was 5 years ago and today. I think it is quite important that we are doing permanent monitoring, inclusive monitoring, that we are always able to present clear facts, that we present that systematic discrimination exists, because now in time of populism, we have never-ending stories. Well, Roma community, they are really not discriminated, they just don't want to work. They have opportunity to work. I don't see that they are discriminated, I don't see any fact that they are discriminated, they just simply don't want to work, or they don't want to go to school, and so on and so on. So we need always to have a very clear reports like this one that you can present, that you simply can combating this narrative, let's say, against Roma community or this populistic narrative. So I think that monitoring is still very important, and especially now in time when donors don't want to support always monitoring, and that monitoring is not something, let's say, sexy for support from the perspective of international community. I think that was almost like 15 years ago or 10 years ago, there was a much more different donors were more ready to support that, while nowadays, I mean, we don't have enough resources to do systematic and permanent monitoring. Second thing that was done in some countries, but not in all, and it is a part of monitoring, but I think it's very important, having in mind that many members of the Roma community don't recognize discrimination or they don't want to report, is to do testing. Testing is a measure that should be done as much as possible on local level. I mean, if we cannot have enough cases from the ground, we can do testing, because according to some local legislation, testing are quite is a proof before the court. So we can use testing before the court. I was participating in several testing in Serbia, and it is quite effective. Roma are preventing to enter swimming pool, Roma are preventing to enter cafes or restaurants or nightclubs, or Roma are preventing to have access to any services. There are so many things, and we can have for one single day, we can have so many cases for representation before the court.
Pa še učesnikuri kada na vorba pe diskusije Under Europa Roma Right Center sehe panelistkinja advokatije Senada Sali. Voja Rakela je slučaju rekahije diskriminacije te izarelen Anglo-Evropake sudujre.
but the main way how to solve the issue is making the community feel free to talk about it. We have to create safe spaces, especially the Romani NGOs that have access to the community. They have to be able to create the safe spaces, to invite people and to discuss about different practices and issues that concerns them, especially when it comes to discrimination. And we have to have the trust of the community. Once we have the trust and they want to share with us this information, the cases of indirect discrimination mainly, I recommend as a lawyer to take cases in front of court. We need more Romani people accessing courts, requesting justice from their domestic systems, and of course presenting those cases as well in front of international community, in front of international fora. So my main suggestion will be we need to speak up and we need to fight in front of courts. We need more judgments that deal with discrimination of Roma, because like that we can encourage other Roma as well to come up and to speak about their stories and to get some compensation for the things that happen to them and recognition of the fact that Roma are in disadvantaged positions only by the fact because we are by different ethnic origin.
One question. You say yesterday, I think, that the judges don't know the law.
Yes.
Can you explain?
Yeah, the laws of the country are constantly changing. And once one political agenda is replaced with another political agenda, we have updates of the law, we have implementation of EU framework into our society, especially when we talk about Western Balkans. Most of the countries now are in the process of joining the EU. They bring a lot of laws, they adapt, and sometimes they even copy-paste European laws that are not adapted to the country's nature and traditions. Judges usually in Western Balkans, I'm talking by my experience from litigating in front of courts in different countries, they don't follow these updates. They usually read what is connected only to the certain case, what is the main law to apply in the case, and that's it. They don't go a lot into innovative case law. They don't read new cases of the European Court of Human Rights, and that's why we have situation when the lawyers themselves are more updated, have more knowledge about the case from the judges. And if you check the age limit as well for a person to be judged, it's required that that person finishes at least 10 years of studies. You have the law degree, and after that you have the academy for judges, and you need practice. So that's at least 10 years from the moment that you finish your bachelor degree. Yeah. From bachelor degree to starting to work as a judge. So these persons in this period of studies, they have the formal curricula in their education that it's not all the time constantly developing and adapting new forms and new critical thinking, especially in the Balkans. We don't have education system where we are motivated as lawyers or future judges or prosecutors to think critically. And that's why we have so many judges that just, they take the piece of paper, they read it, and they think this is the only truth, that the only way how they can solve the case. We need to inspire them to be more creative, to think outside of the box, to read a bit more, to check what are the international standards, and implement them, of course. Because even if they know them, but they don't implement them in their cases, we have a copy-paste judgments that don't have any creativity in them. That's why I say judges don't know the law, because from experience, they really don't know the newest updates that happen, especially in international level, and they're not creative so much. They're used to do their everyday job as a routine.
Познато случај сега пресидиме катаре баре судира о случајот не Данилоград. Текува сега и случај кај роматужи Срде, те доби Срде држава. Джидо Акана.
Alkovic case deals with harassment of an entire Roma family from Montenegro, and they were living in a flat next to non-Roma families, and one of the families was constantly harassing them because of their ethnicity and because of their Muslim origin, because they were both Roma and Muslims. Even once the neighbor drew swastikas on their walls, fascist swastikas, and he also used a gun to make a direct threat upon their lives. He didn't hurt anybody, luckily, only the daughter, the younger daughter of Mr. Alkovic, fainted in that situation when she heard the bullets of the gun. So this process went before Montenegrin courts, and not before courts, but it was first before the public prosecutor, because if it's a criminal case, first goes into prosecution. So the public prosecutor failed in investigating the racist incitements of this case, and even didn't check whose are the bullets, who used the bullets, even though they had the bullets. They went on the spot when the family called the police, and they took the bullets. They saw that there was an incident, but they didn't enter to investigate who used the bullets. So this entire process on domestic level was not successful. The investigation was closed by the public prosecutor without bringing a decision which would find racial discrimination or incitement to hatred or racial discrimination. So that's why the family decided to go before the European Court of Human Rights. The ERRC, the European Roma Rights Center, did a third-party intervention to their case. We helped them by sending data about the fact that there is an entire atmosphere of anti-Gypsyism in Europe, not only in Balkans, but especially in Balkans when it comes to the multiple discrimination of Roma for being Muslim at the same time. With this addition that we added to the case, we managed to get a positive judgment. So the family Alkovic got compensation of 6,000 euros by the European Court of Human Rights, and they won the case against Montenegro. This is a case very recent, from this year is the judgment.
Буд случајра касаван кај жртве дискриминацијако ни каменти иклен теден ворбандргуа. Колеки ехија немај бу државе акције популарис, кај шају случајово дипе преко организации.
Actio Popularis is a collective complaint. It's brought mainly by NGOs, but by activist NGOs that work on certain issues. They are focused on certain issues. So if you want to bring a case which is about discrimination of Roma, that NGO has to have some it has to have some experience, essential experience in working with the Roma community and representing the Roma community before courts. And in that situation, you don't need the victim himself or herself to appear and to file the complaint, but you can just do it by NGO. The NGO will be the one filing the case, and the complaint will describe the issue, but in the name of the victims, not with the victims being the one filing the complaint. And it's a very good option, especially for the Roma community, because we face situations when the victims fear of repercussions and they don't want to file a complaint because of that as a reason. So this protects the identity of the Roma community or of the Roma individual, and at the same time give the possibility for the issue to be brought before the court and to be solved. I know that in Montenegro there is no possibility of Actio Popularis. The same is the situation in Macedonia. We are trying now with the new changes of law. We hope that from January 2019 we will have this option in Macedonia. But I know that in Serbia it's possible already. And there are some active organizations that already started using Actio Popularis for defending the rights of the Roma community. I think one of them is NGO Praxis from Serbia. So this is the current situation. We need more awareness about the need of Actio Popularis and more countries to include them in their legislation as an option.
А неака емисија пашадантуме и ситуација са речачимата трубујатела чартол, а неокоја емисија кај кавел кади каса вегуќаки и активистуира, те експертуира андер Европа те пујапа шамен. Джионда ди камен.
Nane soske mandar te dar hey Monsieur tu ke tu naila chua mal Nane soske mandar te dar hey Aman, yakula dikilman, sasti pig dive kamen, amenu dujene kadi kamen, desvijin gampi ki amiriski, ishikalamen, sasti pig dive kamen, a me non dui gene cadi kamen te swijin yampi ki yambereski ishe kalamen inşallah kalamen inşallah kalamen Nadikava to barballi pem, medikava to mangi pem, nadikava te vorda, dikava te lule vusta, supasik te ave, olin te chumina, ya kujaya mandar, olin te labisra, nadikava to barballi pem, medikava to mangi pem, nadikava te vorda, dikava te lule vusta, supasik te ave. Olin te chumina ya kujaya mandar olin te labisra nadikava to barballi bev medikava to mangi bev nadikava te vorda nadikava te lule vusta supasik te ave olin te chumina ya kujaya mandar olin te labisra a me non dui gene cadi kamen te swijin yampi ki yambereski ishe kalamen sa sti pik dive kamen a me non dui gene cadi kamen te swijin yampi ki yambereski ishe kalamen inşallah kalamen inşallah kalamen